What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Voltage and Villains. Today's story is one of the darkest, most twisted, and tragic cases to ever come out of the UK. A man who manipulated, abused, and controlled the people around him. This is the story of Mick Philpott, the man who killed his own children to frame his ex and gain more benefits from the government. Buckle up, because this mofo is out of his mind. Mick Philpott was born in 1956 in Derby, England. On the surface, he looked like any working class man, but behind closed doors, he was a predator. At 19 years old, he met 15-year-old Kim Hill, the first woman who would fall victim to his violent, manipulative ways. Over time, the relationship turned dark. He became controlling, violent, and terrifying. There were nights where Mick would return home from the pub, accuse Kim of cheating, and beat her mercilessly. One night, in a crowded bar, Mick smashed Kim in the mouth with the thick end of a pool cue, and no one said a word.
If nobody said anything, that's insane.
No one in the whole bar said anything.
That's insane.
And her mouth was bleeding. Apparently the bar was packed and everyone watched.
So back then, being abusive towards your significant other, even in public, was fine. So that's...
I don't think in the 70s it was that prevalent. Like if this was like the 30s, I would say it would make sense why half the bar ignored it. I'm not saying it didn't occur. What I'm saying is that I have a hard time believing that people in the 70s witnessed something like that.
But you have to remember,
say
you're thinking about the 70s in America. You're not thinking about the 70s in another
England.
country.
That's true. Yeah, I have no idea.
Completely different society. Like people act completely different. So the 70s, I guess it's not normal, but it's kind of like where people are gonna watch and they're not gonna say anything, but they're gonna be like judging from afar.
So this was like a normal thing for him to be abusive.
Not good though.
To Kim. So when Kim finally worked up the courage to leave him, he retaliated violently, of course, right? This was his nature. He was violent to her, accusing her of cheating. So now imagine when she finally worked up the courage to break up with him via a letter, because he was I think he was like in the army or something like that. So he'd have to go to post. And while he was away, she sent him a breakup letter. And he returned home. He retaliated violently. He broke her arm and fractured her leg with a hammer.
Dude.
She managed to escape, and in July 1978, sent him a breakup letter, but Mick couldn't let it go. He waited until her father left for work, broke into her home, and stabbed Kim 27 times. When Kim's mother tried to intervene, Mick stabbed her 11 times.
Gosh.
Kim's mother managed to call emergency services, and when police arrived, they found Mick still holding the knife, sitting on the steps, and he casually said to them, "Don't bother, I've done a good job on her." Basically alluding to the fact that she's dead. Don't even bother going upstairs. Just take me, because I clearly did it. And
he clearly didn't care that he did it. He clearly was just there to be like, here.
Yeah, just take me away. But they go upstairs, and Kim miraculously survived. And so did her mom. Mick ended up getting sentenced. Guess what his sentence was? Well, first of all, what do you think his charge is? So she didn't die. So it's not murder. So what do you think his charge was?
It should be attempted murder.
Okay.
It should be assault. It should be something
How
about
many counts of this though? Breaking in.
Right.
And he also did this to the mom when the mom tried to help. So this is 2 counts of attempted murder,
each.
2 counts of assault, and 1 count of breaking and entering, right? Okay, what do you think his prison sentence was?
Based on this question, I'm going to say some dumb ass sentence like 2 years with possibility of probation.
Mick was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Guess how many he served?
Probably like 3, 4.
3. Mick served 3 years in prison for this.
Because of good behavior.
Yeah, I think this is not even the craziest part of the case. And this is not even the main part of the case. This is just a backstory to his menacing ways, and that if he had actually served a prison sentence that most people would deem worthy of him to serve, the rest of this would have probably never happened.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But because it didn't, a villain. I was gonna say a villain was born, but he was a villain.
He was already a villain.
He was already a menace to society. While in prison,
problem.
he wrote letters to Kim constantly, apologizing, manipulating her, basically,
Gaslighting her.
gaslighting, saying like, hey, I'd never do it again. When I get out, we'll get married, all this stuff. She ignored it.
As
When
she
he
should.
gets out, he marries a woman named Pamela Lomax, but nothing changed. The violence, the control, the abuse, it was all still there. Pamela later said that she'd hoped that he would eventually leave her for another woman just to escape him. And that's exactly what happened. In the 90s, Mick went on to meet a woman.
Another woman.
My fault. A girl
Oh my God.
by the name of Heather. I can't pronounce her last name. It's Kehoe. Ko. A 14-year-old girl when he was 37. On her
14?
Yeah, she was 14.
Dude,
on her
that's-
16th birthday, she ran away with him. She ran away with him. They had 2 children together. And of course, Mick was abusive,
No surprise.
like he was in the past.
Right.
And Heather eventually built up the courage to leave Mick, but Mick constantly kept alluding
Lingering
to the
back.
fact that, hey, if you leave, you'll end up just like my other ex, but this time you won't survive. So clearly, she was afraid. So she lied to him one day, and she was able to escape with her 2 kids. And they fought in court, and
She won custody.
no,
She did.
Heather eventually left Mick, but he fought her in court and took custody of their kids,
Oh my goodness.
which continued his wicked pattern of control.
Yes.
Now, fast forward. It's the year 2000. Mick meets Mairead Duffy. Now, this is where we get into the real nitty gritty of like, what's the Mount Everest of his crime. In 2000, Mick met a woman by the name of Mairead Duffy, a 19-year-old single mother who had just escaped another abusive marriage. And a year later, he met a woman by the name of Lisa Willis, a 26-year-old orphan single mom. By 2003, Mick married Mairead, and Lisa was the bridesmaid at their wedding.
Dude, what type of
So he was
throuple
dating.
is
He
this?
was dating both Lisa and Mairead. Married Mairead in 2003, and Lisa was the bridesmaid at their wedding.
He was clearly really good at deceiving these women, because this lady that just escaped an abusive relationship met him, married him,
And couldn't tell that he was also
couldn't
abusive.
tell that he was also abusive.
Nah, yeah, he has some serious
He
hiding
has,
skills.
yes.
Apparently, he's like, when they described him, when like his previous ex-wives and girlfriends described him, he's like really charming at first, and then, and then super abusive, which is also crazy because he's also much older than most of these women. But that's also the thing. I think that he wouldn't get away with this if he was not much older than these women.
Yes, and that's exactly the reason why he kind of targeted younger women, was because he knew there was a certain emotional immaturity there that he couldn't just pick on.
Exactly.
With older women, especially probably women his age, they probably like, you have problems, buddy. You have to get away from me.
Exactly.
Literally.
So it's 2003. He marries Mairead. Lisa's the bridesmaid. But this wasn't an ordinary love triangle. Mick had both women living under the same roof in a tiny 3-bedroom council house
Oh my goodness.
with 11 children.
For those who don't know, a council house is more of like Section 8 here in America for over there. It's kind of like government funded.
Yes.
And Mick specifically was being paid by the government because he was retired or something like that.
He
Correct?
wasn't no fucking retired. Mick was mainly being paid because he had 11 children.
Well, no.
Majority of
he
his
was
money.
unemployed.
He
That's
was
what it was.
unemployed and he had 11 children.
Yes.
That is why. That is his whole business, which kind of goes. We're going to get to it in a second, what his heinous ass crime was. But primarily, that was his job, being an unemployed, deadbeat, abusive dad, quote unquote. So he manipulated and controlled both of them. He had an RV parked in the backyard where he would sleep with them on alternating nights. Both women worked, and all of their wages went straight to Mick. while he stayed home collecting government benefits, which ballooned because of the sheer number of children that he fathered. Which at the moment, in this year of 2003, it was 11.
He has 11 kids?
Yes. So now fast forward, what is this? 5 years? 3 years. Mick became infamous in the UK because he campaigned publicly for a bigger house because his family was too large for their council home. The government refused, but Mick took his case to the media. He appeared on shows like The Jeremy Kyle Show, which was essentially the UK's version of Jerry Springer. There, he shamelessly admitted he couldn't get a job because of his criminal record. The media dubbed him Shameless Mick. But what makes this worse is that on one of the shows that he went on, I believe either the host or somebody on the show offered him a job. They offered not a job on the show, but they had a connection to like a factory of some sort to get him a job. And on the first day of the job, can you guess what this man did?
He probably just went home. I was like,
he didn't even show up.
Oh my God.
He didn't even show up, which
shamelessly didn't show up.
Yes. That's why his name was Shameless Mick.
That's insane, bro.
And he wore that shit with a badge of honor. And
that's all he wanted. He wanted the notoriety. That's what he wanted.
Because you could see in the footage he's like cursing people out. He's even cursing out the talk show people. This motherfucker was crazy.
Like there has to be something wrong. Like that's
crazy.
Like delusional. That's delulu. That is the definition of delusional.
So now let's get into the big tip of the iceberg crime that he committed. So the media dubbed him Shameless Mick, but behind the cameras, he was running a household of abuse and manipulation. Lisa Willis, his mistress, his in-home mistress, so not the person he's legally married to, after years of suffering, finally had enough. Now, before I get into how she left, for 3 years before she ends up leaving, Mick is basically begging Mairead, his I was going to say biological, his legal wife, to divorce him so that he can marry Lisa.
Why would she do that?
I don't know, but this dude is insane.
Like, hold on. You expect the girl, this woman, to marry you, then divorce you, so you could marry the other lady, so you could be divorced. Like it's not making sense.
It's not at all. But that just goes to show you how his brain works. And it gets worse. So now Lisa Willis, after years of suffering, finally had enough. In February 2012, she told Mick she was taking her 5 kids swimming, but she never came back. She moved in with her sister and cut him off. Mick became enraged. And this is where he decided on a deadly plan. So there was a custody hearing that was coming up in May of 2012.
Okay.
And mind you, just a couple months earlier.
Oh shit! So hold on. So that Lisa woman was together with him for about 9 years.
Longer.
Not longer.
A little longer.
That's around the time that he got married to the other lady.
Yeah, he got married to Mairead in 2003.
Jeez. Yeah. So like 12 years.
A little longer than that.
Dude. And she was just like.
And she was just thugging it out, you know?
She was thugging it out, waiting to get married to this man.
Yeah.
And
by this time.
Didn't want to get divorced.
Yeah.
So now she was like, I'm tired of this shit. F you.
Yeah. And I think that by this time, by 2012 is when he had 17 and almost 18 kids.
Dang, he's now like 60, right?
Yeah, by this point he's damn near.
He should be like damn near 60.
No. He's approaching it, but he's not there yet.
Dude, still having kids at that age?
Yeah. So, I mean, he's getting paid. And that's my thing is how much can he possibly be? He's not rolling in the dough.
No, he's not. He's probably.
That's so weird to have kids. You're not even getting rich off of it.
I don't even think he really took care of his kids. And I think like that's exactly what it is. Like he just didn't care. He just kind of used them as a way to get money from the government and kind of didn't care for them. Does that make sense?
Of course he did. But like Like he didn't want more out of life. Like he didn't want to do shit.
Clearly
he just wanted
not.
to like sit on the couch all day and just like watch his kids run around and just
He didn't. I
drink
don't
beer
even
and watch
think he
TV.
wanted to watch his
Like,
kids run around.
Yeah, that's so weird. It's such a weird way to live.
Because he had a trailer where he would have relations with each woman, but both women lived together with their kids. So that's just a lot. That's a lot
That's what
to
I'm
even
saying.
think about.
He has such
because
like a weird like way of life. You know what I'm saying?
Well, he just probably just wanted to collect money, be by himself, not have to take care of any kids, and just
Homeboy needed
live.
like a secret vlog camera just always on him, just so that like we can study that shit. Because I want to know like what the hell, what was your day in a life like? You know, that's so weird.
He probably woke up, brushed his teeth, drink a Coke, turn on the TV.
Yo, this motherfucker looks like the type to wake up, brush his teeth, and
Or
drink
a
a Coca-Cola all day. Like instead of getting water, it's like, yo, go grab me a Coca-Cola.
Yes, and then when he's tired of Coca-Cola, he drinks a beer.
Crazy ass.
Like, and then he watches TV all day. Probably warms up those like microwavable meals,
Hot
eats
Pockets.
those.
Yeah.
I don't know what the English version.
The English version of a Hot Pocket.
Yeah.
If there's any people
or like
from the UK that's
hamburger
watching,
helper or any of those like fast microwavable meals.
if anybody from the UK is watching or listening, please comment and let me know what is the UK version of a Hot Pocket. So now it's in February 2012, Lisa leaves. In May 2012, there's a custody hearing for their kids because Mick is upset. So now this is about 3 months later.
Well, that makes sense because really quickly, he's battling for the kids because he wants the money.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now 3 months later, there's a custody hearing that's coming up. So Mick devises an evil plan. So himself, Mairead, his wife, and their friend Paul Mosley plan to set fire to their own home and heroically rescue the children and blame Lisa. That way, when they get to the custody hearing the next day, they'll win custody and receive more benefits, plus possibly a new council home because their home burned down.
I have so many questions.
Mind you, the reason that the government gave Mick as to why he could not get a new council home was because there was none available. So in his mind, he goes, no, you guys are lying to me. There is more available. So he goes, I'm going to burn this house down, save my kids, get custody of my kids, and you're going to have no choice but to give me a new council
Just going to be homeless.
Which is going to be risky as fuck, because what if there really is no more council homes? Now you and your 18 kids will just be homeless.
No, literally.
So on the night of May 11th, 2012, everything went horribly wrong when he tried this plan. At 4 a.m., Mick, Mairead, and Mosley poured petrol through the letterbox of their home on Victory Road in Derby, while 6 of Mick's children were asleep inside. The fire raged out of control, and temperatures reached 500 degrees Fahrenheit. The smoke was overwhelming, and fire experts later said no one inside the house stood a chance.
Oh my goodness.
The 6 victims, because everyone in the house died, was Jade Philpott, who was 10, John Philpott, who was 9, Jack Philpott, who was 8, Jesse Philpott, who was 6, Jaden Philpott, who was 5, and a few days later, Dwayne Philpott, who was 13, succumbed to his injuries in the hospital. So 5 children died at the scene. Dwayne died in the hospital 2 days later. Now, initially, Mick and Mairead played the devastated parents, of course. They were crying on camera. They even donated, and this part is sick. Even though it's like they tried to be heartwarming in a way, it's like this part is sick. They donated Dwayne's organs to save another child.
That's insane.
Like now, even though that's the least you can do,
yes,
it's also fucking sick, you know. But
like,
it's like a double-edged sword. It's like that's the least you can do, but also at the same time, that's sick to hear. They even held a public press conference. But during the press conference, listen to this, Mick flirted with a police officer and invited her back to their hotel room.
Dude.
Investigators quickly grew suspicious because there were too many inconsistencies.
Yeah.
Like, there was a ladder left at the back of the house, supposedly meant for a rescue.
What?
But it was never used. Fire experts determined the fire was deliberately set because, they can trace back to where the fire started. Yeah. And so police ultimately ended up bugging the Philpott's hotel room because they didn't get a new council home. They didn't get a new council home
like he was expecting to get.
So you know what happened?
They ended up in a hotel.
They ended up in a fucking hotel room. And so
I don't know what he was expecting.
So the police bugged the hotel room, and what they heard was chilling. Mick, Mairead, and Paul Mosley were laughing, talking about the fire, and even discussing how Mairead performed a sex act on Mosley to keep him quiet.
What type of weird ass throuple shit this man like?
He's weird.
This man is real weird. He
watched. And he
that is not funny. That is disgusting.
No, this guy.
This is some Diddy ass shit for real.
No. Hold on. Like, I don't mean to laugh. This guy is insane.
He's sick.
Like, have you ever I don't think I've heard a story this outlandish in quite some fucking time. Like, his IQ level is so through the floor.
Through the floor.
Like, every plan, this is legit the type of human being that needs to be locked away in a cage. Not a prison, a cage. And studied.
A cage?
And studied on a daily basis.
He needs to be locked away in a padded room. That's what he needs to be locked away in. This man is sick.
Nah, yeah, facts. He's sick. He's the opposite of Silence of the Lambs. You know how that serial killer was like really smart? So everyone had to stay away from him because he could manipulate you? This guy's really dumb. So
No,
I'm serious.
But here's my thing is, how did he get these women and these people to do all of these things?
Because he's so... I think... Here's my theory. You know what my theory is?
What?
I think he's so dumb.
It's not funny.
No. Why am I laughing? No, for real. I think this guy is so dumb, legitimately, that he says things and believes it so deep to his core that he gets other people to believe it.
Oh.
Like, I think, I don't know how to really describe it, but I know you and everybody else listening is going to understand what I'm saying by that.
Yeah.
He believes in everything he says and does so wholeheartedly with so much confidence that if you get somebody just slightly naive enough, you'll get them to believe that shit might actually work.
I also feel like he only made friends and had relationships with people who were not as smart. Does that make sense?
He groomed these people.
Yes.
He groomed his wives.
No, yes.
They were all really young. He was
man.
19. His first wife, he was 19. She was 15.
She was 15.
Then he's 37. She's 14. I mean, 16 or whatever.
14.
14, whatever the hell.
Because she ran away at 16.
Yes. Do you understand? He's damn near 50. Then he goes to a 26-year-old. He's just catching people at their most vulnerable. A 26-year-old that just left an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
That's what it is, So now police bugged the Philpott's hotel room. They capture all these confessions basically. And on May 28th, 2012, Mick and Mairead were arrested. On May 30th, they were charged with murder. Mosley was arrested later that year in November when forensics found petrol on his clothes.
Dude.
So now here comes the trial and the sentencing. In December 2012, well, let's play a guessing game, right? So in December 2012, the charges were downgraded. Downgraded.
You just murdered 6 children. Downgraded?
It was downgraded from murder to manslaughter because the court determined that while they intended to start the fire, they didn't intend to kill the children. The trial began in February 2013 and lasted 10 weeks. On April 2nd, 2013, Mick Philpott, Mairead Philpott, and Paul Mosley were found guilty of manslaughter. Guess what Mick Philpott's sentence was?
Oh my goodness.
Just guess.
8 years.
You think 8 years? That's it?
Actually, no. Let me think. He
Final
probably got
guess.
life. He probably
Okay.
just ended up getting life
Okay.
because he's a lot older.
What do you think his minimum is?
minimum?
Yeah.
I would say like 15 years.
Damn, you got it spot on. So Mick Philpott received life in prison with a minimum of 15 years. What do you think?
As he should.
So Mairead and Paul got the same exact sentence and minimum to serve. So what do you think theirs were?
I think theirs were 10 years.
With a minimum of?
Oh, no. I think they got life.
Oh, you think
With
they
a
got
minimum
life
of
with a
10
minimum of 10 years? No, so Mairead Philpott and Paul Mosley were sentenced to 17 years and they have to serve at least 8 years before eligibility for release, which I still think is too little. I think that they all share the equal blame. I think it's all around the board, 100% between all you guys.
Yeah, because also Mairead is the mom. Mairead was the mom of all of those kids that lived in that house that died. So you mean to tell me that you're just gonna be like he? It's not funny. It's not cute.
Yeah, the oldest one, Dwayne, was actually Mick's half, is like his stepchild.
Oh, okay.
Because it was Mairead's
oldest son from another marriage.
From her abusive marriage. If like in closing, I really do firmly believe that Mick. I don't think Mick knew how ill-intentioned he really was. I don't think his brain can wrap around his actions the way that we perceive it.
I see what you're saying.
You know, I genuinely don't think that he was like straight up evil in the brain. Because, you know, there's some people that we cover or there's just some people that you read cases about and you know they're evil and they know they're evil and they know that you know that they're evil.
Right. And they kind of like that.
Yeah, I genuinely think that this evil man did all these evil doings and genuinely did not know how evil he actually was. Because
he was causing damage.
Because his brain was just like, I'm just gonna call him stupid. But that's like, I think that he was just, his IQ was just not that high.
I think he had no sort of emotional intelligence and no sort of like maturity.
He was just deep on the sociopathic scale and his emotional intelligence was real low.
Yes, and he was very immature because it's just a combination of things. Because how do you convince all of these people around you outside of like the women? I understand the woman part, but like the community, right? Didn't the community believe he was this good-hearted man that just lost his kids?
No, nobody really believed it. Like even at the press conference when he was crying, like most people didn't believe him.
They didn't buy it.
No, they didn't buy it. That's why the police bugged his room.
That makes sense.
Nobody believed him. They were just like, no, this is shameless Mick. Nah,
a surprise.
I believe like this has to be for money or there has to be some other motive behind this. No way your house just burned down like that.
Yeah, that doesn't
not you. You know, not you.
Out of all people.
Now your house burned down. You've been begging for a new one.
And you went on national TV to say you wanted a new house.
You want a new one multiple times. I don't believe this shit.
This don't make sense.